7:03 p.m. and we're having a special session tonight for the reading of several ordinances. This is our last meeting of the 2015 year and our last meeting for Mayor Paul Weil, and so we did have a resolution of appreciation, but just want to say once again what a wonderful job you've done, and many thanks to you for all the years of service.
Technically, it's the end of term for all of you, and you're starting a new council in January.
I know, we will be.
All of you are going to be here.
So next January 4th, yes, we will begin with several new council members joining us, and we're looking forward to that. And we will have a swearing in January for the new council members. Right now, our first order of business is to establish a quorum, and we have all but one of our council members present with us tonight. We have ordinances for third reading. The first one of these is Ordinance 11915, an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into an LPA state agreement for a bridge deck overlay project on Athens State Route 682 and declaring an emergency. This is introduced by Councilmember Pappy.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to adopt 11915.
Second.
This is the ordinance that allows the Ohio Department of Transportation to begin their work on the bridge overlay and the bridge work that will be done on that 682 project.
Great. Okay. We have a motion and a second for approval of Ordinance 11915. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 12015 is an ordinance to make appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Athens, Ohio, during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2016. And this is introduced by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to adopt 12015.
Second.
And the reasons that are given are right there in front of us. End of the year, we have to pay bills. The administration wants to speak to it?
As we discussed it last time, of course, looking at the total value, it never really reflects things because the average, because we go up and down depending on grants. The uptick this time for the $38 million is probably, if you look, falls in the small cities. I think that's for the Columbus Road bikes path, as well as the other one, of course, is we're still finishing up our wastewater treatment plant dollars. I mentioned also, if you look at the back of it, you'll see that the Finance Committee all has to sign off. So before you all disappear, you want to sign off on it. There's signature spots for each of the Finance Committee.
Darn.
Okay.
It's just protocol, that's all.
Yeah. So this is our budget for the operations for the coming year, and this is the one when we do have new appropriations. We are amending this budget during the year to reflect the appropriate amounts being spent. Right, we have a motion and a second for approval of Ordinance 12015, the budget that will be operating for us for next fiscal year. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 12115 is an ordinance authorizing staffing levels, a non-union pay scale, and slotting for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2016, repealing all ordinances inconsistent therewith and declaring an emergency. This is introduced by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. I move we adopt 12115.
Second.
Administration care to speak?
Section 2, of course, is a 2% pay raise for the non-union members.
Correct.
Okay. Again, we're still, if you remember the report from the auditor, that we have an uptick in our income tax.
Correct.
Again, we have to be watching our dollars. I won't add anything besides that.
Okay. I have nothing more to add.
Okay. We have a motion and a second for approval of Ordinance 12115. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 12215 is an ordinance adopting a fringe benefit package for non-union personnel within the City of Athens and repealing all ordinances inconsistent therewith and declaring an emergency, introduced by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. I move we adopt 12215.
Second.
This was one of the ordinances that has went through a lot of work in different committees back and forth, trying to get the fringe benefit package for this year together. And I really want to thank everybody who was involved with that, especially Human Resources and the auditor and members of council and the administration to get this package done. I think it looks pretty good to me. So,
Okay. Any other comments?
And it probably will change depending on how
Well, of course,
we
yeah.
deal with the, Obamacare, I guess.
oh, the Affordable Care Act.
Oh.
There's potential that it could change,
Yeah.
and then perhaps it won't. But nonetheless,
As well as
it has to be in there, right?
Which will be
Councilmember
2018
Canberra.
now. They've changed that to where most of that will be 2018 unless that gets repealed also.
Correct. So,
All right. Thank
more
you for
to-
the comments. So we have a motion and a second for approval of ordinance 12215. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 12315 is an ordinance authorizing a stop-loss medical insurance contract and declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilmember Reisner.
I move that we adopt 12315,
Second.
and this is for our insurance. Would the administration care to speak on any topic?
No, not really. Again, it's just a one-year contract. It's just rolling it over. Current one expires the end of this year.
Mm-hmm.
United Healthcare, EP, covers stop loss. So
Correct.
he's self-insured.
Okay.
Nothing more to add?
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of 12315. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 12415 is an ordinance establishing an internal service fund cost allocation policy, introduced by Councilmember Reisner.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we adopt 12415.
Second?
And, I really have nothing to say on the issue.
124?
124.
Again, this is parallel to the other admin support, general fund support. That one, of course, was approved earlier this year.
Yeah.
This one, if you look at the narrative, they're comparing, of course, cars and computers. What is not really pointed out here or actually defined in here is actually the ratio between cars and computers. I mean, we have so many cars and we have so many computers, but the question is, in terms of employment, staffing, and needs, what's the ratio? In other words, 50-50 as a car equivalent to a computer in terms of maintenance and requirements. That is not really defined in here, from what I can tell.
No, it's not.
Okay.
One thing that has kind of troubled me about using cars and computers is the idea that with the city of our size, the number of cars that we have tends to be fixed. That we go up one or two now and then, but it doesn't really expand out because we just simply don't have a need for a larger fleet. But in terms of computers, tablets, and so on and so forth, those things are becoming so ubiquitous throughout the city that I could foresee at a time when practically every employee has one. So just trying to figure out how that's going to work out in the future.
That's a good question. The point that arises there, of course, is how much the cost would be. As you say, as the peripherals and toys, the electronic toys get more common, the cost and maintenance will go down.
Yeah.
On the same time, we have two mechanics. We had 3 years ago. I know there's every once in a while we could use that extra that third one. I know they try weighting it between the vehicles because there is a difference between the lawnmower, which is considered maintenance item, and they've been taking that into account to a certain amount. Some departments don't have any cars whatsoever. Most of them have computers, and they are proliferating pretty quickly. I think what will occur is we'll look at the cost to maintain the internal service fund and then pull it from it. But really, the overall structure is really what you're approving because
Yes.
the dollar amount will go up and down depending on our needs. And again, I get requests, and I've stuck some of it into the 580 for capital improvement side, but there's always more requests than we have money for. I think we've discussed in the past about the Green Fleets Committee, and I think that's probably going to be modified in the next few years. I will rely on you to actually look at that. how you want to go about doing that. Mostly just to evaluate what kind of vehicles we need and what is suitable.
Right.
There's a certain amount of inertia in both, adapting computers as well as changing the car fleet, but also adapting the computers to make it functional what we want. Many years ago, everybody was just running out to Staples and buying one, and some were better than others, and so a coordinated effort on systems. And I'm glad I'm not having to deal with paperless paradise, as you guys seem to enjoy, but this is how I usually work. So I'm not the person to be an advocate for it.
Okay.
And of course, we just added that whole Park Mobile, just kicked in just today, so there's another whole set of toys. I'll have to get toys.
But policy can be reviewed
Oh, yeah.
on a
Yes, it will
periodic
be.
basis.
Yes.
And
No,
this-
I just brought that up mainly because since the mayor is retiring and leaving us, he won't have to worry about it. So,
we do.
I think
So,
the narrative is that, let's see, percentage of vehicles per department will average be expected at your maintenance services. I believe there is a built-in time for this, but I don't see it. Reviewed annually for any deviations, internal service charges. That's the actual cost. The allocation will be, again, be over time. And it's important to do that, really, because it was getting out of hand. We weren't tracking the computers and the cars as well.
right. But it's just good policy, and the state auditors like it too. So
Yes.
Right.
I have nothing further to add.
All right, we have a motion and a second for approval of Ordinance 12415 for our internal service fund cost allocation policy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 12615 is an ordinance authorizing installation of an ADA chair lift in the city building, introduced by Councilmember Patterson.
Thank you, Madam President. If I may for a minute, it's interesting, I was reflecting on this piece of legislation, and one of my first acts on city council was to put forward an ordinance that struck the word handicap from all of our code, and so I find it rewarding that I'm closing out one of my last legislative acts as a city council member with another ordinance that references ADA. That said, it's my honor to make a motion to adopt ordinance 126-15.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay. Any additional comments? Councilmember Butler?
Thank you. I applaud Councilmember Patterson for addressing this as well and staying on task throughout your term of service here with ADA accessibility and working with Disabilities Commission. It's, we live in a community that we want to be inclusive, and I appreciate and applaud those efforts. I also want to applaud the mayor for making reasonable accommodations throughout the course of your term and meeting people with disabilities in the conference room down below. But you acknowledged with us during first reading that it's been challenging because the room can be occupied or it's not always available. And so I think this is moving in the right direction. Again, we're all just temporarily able-bodied, and this is a step in the right direction. Thank you.
We have, if you were to look at the finances for all the boards and commissions, most of them are coming out of the other admin, which we just talked about, the other portion besides internal services. Historically, what usually it is, we just allocate a certain amount of money towards it, like $1,000. Some consume more than others, tree commission in particular. I really move money into it when it's needed, but the next administration may want to think about actually setting a goal, a yearly finance goal, resource goal to where we want to go. And I say that because I know a requisition passed my desk earlier today for signalization on a traffic light for somebody who's is visually impaired and wants to be able to cross the street. And the suggestion actually came to Steve, worked it up to EPW. That's probably coming out of the street funds. I seem to call that. I'm not sure. I have to look at it, but it doesn't come out of what we have. But at the same time, to do advocacy and analysis of what we need, whether it's a ramp over here that you put in over the past few years or a lift that we're going to put in at the City Hall, we may want to be more robust on that, considering how we're an aging population in many cases. I believe I was listening to Governor Kasich just earlier, about a week or two ago, saying he expects to be able to lean out Medicaid and Medicare in terms of cost. but considering an aging population, I don't know how that works. You know, there's a certain level of productivity that increases, but there's also a bottom line of how much you spend. Usually, again, it comes down to resources and where you want to put it forward. I thank you for actually putting the money, separating money for transportation, the 1% for the income tax for that, because that is part of being an inclusive city and a functional city. But how to go forward on that and what enhancements you want to put in for the other needs. And we're a hilly city. You know, you're on 2nd Street. There's stairs there. You know, how are you ever going to get something to work there for somebody? And it comes down to, you know, accessibility and inclusiveness, and we're all going to, as you say, tabs. We're all going to get there sooner or later. But thanks, you know, this is a good step, good start.
Yeah. Thank you for the comments and your work on this. Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of Ordinance 126-15. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. The ordinance is approved. We have an ordinance for first reading, 127-15, an ordinance amending the 2015 appropriation ordinance. And this is introduced by Councilmember Reisner.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we suspend the rules.
Second.
The reason for the suspension is that email I received from the auditor, we're short $50,000 here to. Let me just read what she says here. I'm requesting a new appropriation of $50,000 to the Medical Fund 866 TC 300. I was just made aware of this projected shortfall. So it's an emergency. It is something that for the good of the city. So that's the reason to suspend.
We have a motion and a second for suspending the rules on Ordinance 127-15. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The rules have been suspended. Councilmember Reisner.
I move that we adopt 127-15.
Second.
The ordinance reads, Section 1, the 2015 Appropriation Ordinance 120-14 is hereby amended by appropriating from the unappropriated balance the sum of $50,000 Medical Fund 866 TC 300 to cover year-end claims and increase the total appropriations by said amount. So as I was mentioning in the reasons for suspending the rules, that we need to pass it tonight. Mr. Mayor?
Do you have this in a form of ordinance? I haven't seen the ordinance myself, so.
Yes, it is in the form.
Okay,
It's
well,
one
I'd like a
section.
copy of it when done,
Oh, sure.
so I can sign it at least.
Good thinking.
Okay, we have a motion and a second and a request for a copy of Ordinance 127-15. This amends our 2015 appropriation ordinance. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. The ordinance is approved.
Can't do any more of this year.
Okay. And we now have an opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items the city services not covered on the agenda. And yes, Mr. Black. And if you can sign in for us, and then, if there's not,
Sure.
if you could just,
Thanks. Yep. Sorry about my handwriting.
and if you could give us your name and address so that the people on the watching tonight know who you are. And you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Jared Black, and I'm an Athens resident. I live on 189 West State Street. I'm here because I've obviously made a lot of mistakes this last year, especially not coming and talking to you guys and using the appropriate channels to really further public art and my quest in beautifying Athens. Basically, I've expressed a lot in the media in a lot of ways that I shouldn't have done. I should have came to you guys first because I've realized in retrospect, you guys really do care. I've seen it in your posts. I've seen it in every day. I know you guys care. We're here for the same reason. We're all citizens of the same city. I would like to, two things, move towards some more discussions on opening up possible more free art walls, public art walls, so that we can have more expression of art and ideas like we do on the Bentley wall down on Richland Avenue. And then I also would like to have discussions about finishing the quote-unquote piano stairs, whether I get the proper permission using the channels or even possibly funding. I've heard the word enhancement fund and some other things that are possible ways to make that like a park light setting that we can maintain like safely. And it's not just about the art. I do care about the safety of, there's bottles and glass everywhere. It's not just about the art. Bottom line is I'm here willing to work with any and all of you. I'm willing to take criticism, and you guys know that I'm willing to take responsibility publicly for my shortfalls. And if I've stepped on any toes and offended, I apologize. And again, next year some of you might not be here. I will. And I plan on coming and working with all of you, including the outgoing mayor, because I know he cares about public art quite a bit. So other than that, that's really all I have to say. I don't know all the proper ways to do it, but I'm going to learn because a lot of you have stepped forward to help me. Thank you guys for being patient.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Maybe you can volunteer to be on our commission.
Maybe so.
We always need bodies to be on our art commission.
I'm going to learn about how to do that and speak and listen.
And personally, I'd like to say thank you for the conversation and such, because I think that there is a lot of love, and every bit of public art is always an expression of the love that happens in Athens. So thank you for coming and talking to us.
Thank you for giving me a chance, guys.
Okay. All right. And if there is nobody else in the audience who'd like to speak tonight, I will entertain a motion for adjournment. From outgoing Councilmember Canterbury. Last motion. All those in favor?
Should we do it by person? Or
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. Our meeting is adjourned at 7:25 p.m.
Nay.
Thank you very much.